The most worrying form of organized crime in football and soccer, and in fact sports generally, is illegal betting. Now, on a
Hmm.
channel like yours that speaks routinely about cartels and executions and drug trafficking, illegal betting can seem quaint. It can seem like a rich man's crime. It's anything but. Often Chinese and Asian syndicates that run illegal betting are also running human trafficking scams. They're also the guys behind the pig butchering compounds in Cambodia and Vietnam, where people are literally chained to a desk and scamming thousands of Americans every single day. In fact, that whole scam economy is probably bigger than drug trafficking now. There is a strong belief, and that's one of the things that we're trying to prove, that some of these kids are being trafficked and placed in lower division clubs in order to fix matches.
Hmm.
So, for
That's
example,
like a multi-level scam.
yeah,
We're
no,
gonna
it's
human traffic
it,
and then and to tie that into our organized
yeah.
or the illegal betting scene. Damn.
So look at it this way. You're a kid from Africa, you get told, okay, I'm going to move you to Cyprus. Cyprus and Portugal are two of the worst countries for this. You go to Cyprus and you get put in a dead end team in Cyprus second division, right? And they tell you, okay, um, I want you tomorrow to get a yellow card in the first 15 minutes of the game. Because now in illegal betting, they often don't try and influence the final result of the game because that's too obvious. They do what's called spot fixing, where they'll say, okay, I want you and one of your teammates to get yellow cards in the first 20 minutes. So that's not going to be noticed, but you can bet on that. You can go and bet as much money as you can on there'll be 2 yellow cards in the first 20 minutes. And
Oh
of course, the
man.
only way to figure that out is that you'll see it, but you'll see on like one random game on Vietnam third division, $200,000 goes in on there'll be a red card in the first half,
Yeah.
and then 2 minutes later it happens because the referee's in on it and a couple of the players are in on it, and it's almost impossible to police. So there is beginning to be a lot of evidence because we see the players that are involved in this, and a lot of them are West African, a lot of them are South American. Um, we don't have a smoking gun yet, but we're looking into it. That these players have been bought and controlled by illegal betting syndicates.
It's been interesting. Like I opened with at the beginning, my understanding of what I thought trafficking was before having conversations with people like yourself and just people that work in this world. I had an overly simplistic view of what I thought it was. And the cartels was kind of the same thing. I had heard the term cartel for decades. I didn't really understand what it was. And I had associated it generally with, I would say, probably physical intimidation, just raw horsepower, right? They have people, they have equipment, they have weapons, and they are just moving whatever it is they may be moving from south of the border to north of the border. Again, overly simplistic. The more I've talked with people, the level of complexity and sophistication is beyond what most people would want to think about. I mean, they are moving into legitimate businesses. They are moving. I mean, it's just their tentacles are everywhere. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they have the organized, the illegal betting, because they're working on, moving avocados and charging a scrape and, keeping land safe and into local governments and timeshare scams and phone center scams and let alone, all of these things. People, I think it's really a dangerous thing to underestimate your adversary or your enemy, depending on how you look at it. And that wouldn't shock me at all. That level of complexity. It's a tough pill to swallow because you land at this place where if they're that big and they're that sophisticated and they're doing that much, how in the hell do we stop it?
I'll give you an even worse case example. We broke this a couple of months ago. You know the Brazilian group, the PCC, the First Capital Command, biggest
Yes.
criminal group out of PCC. We collaborated on an investigation that they had tried to buy 4 clubs in Portugal, second division clubs. They tried to buy them in cash. Now, we couldn't connect them to human trafficking in football so far, but guess who their frontman was? One of the biggest football agents in Brazil. So
Money,
you
money.
see
I
how it all
swear it
connects,
just,
right?
yeah. They just start writing zeros on a check. You tell me when to stop. And when I hit to that point where your morals become flexible, yeah, then you got a huge problem. That's a legitimate agent, I'm assuming. So people look at this person like, yeah, if I work with this guy, I got a legitimate shot at it. And come to find out, yeah, might be directly associated and involved with organized crime and trafficking. I mean,
Uh, and even another and this perhaps the last case study. You can launder money through soccer transfers.
huh.
It's a very common way of laundering drug money now, is to sell soccer players. What you do is you have a club in Paraguay, second division, and you have a club in Greece, second division, and you declare the transfer, but you do it officially. Official players through FIFA. We're not talking about young players now, real players, and you say, okay, the transfer is worth $100,000. That player is a bum. That player is worth $5,000 on a good day. But FIFA doesn't know that. FIFA has no way of estimating that value. FIFA's just going to look to see if the paperwork is done, if the contract is in order, all that. Yes, but they're not seeing that the Paraguayan players, the Paraguayan team, is receiving money and using that inflated transfer value to move drug money, to launder it. It's again, that's been reported a little bit more, but it's still drastically underestimated as a tactic.
What, if anything, I mean, I guess we could go high level, governments, but then sports organizations, and then maybe at the lowest level, parents. What can they do to protect young athletes who, of course, are going to look at somebody like Messi, or if it's in basketball, whoever's at the apex of the sport that they love and play? Of course, the child is going to want to pursue their ability to be that person. The name on the back of a jersey, the fame, fortune, whatever it is that draws them to it. Love of the game, I'm sure, for most of them as well. But what could a government, a sport organization, and a parent at that local level, what steps can they take to protect aspiring athletes, specifically aspiring children athletes, from scams like this?
Three things. First of all, it's not about denying a kid his dream. It's not telling a kid you're never going to make it, although that is another conversation.
I mean, the math is the math.
The math is math. At 50, I speak to coaches all the time who say at 15 years old, you know if a player is going to make it or not. And you break their heart because you tell them you're just not going to make it at that level. And when you're doing that in West Africa, there's not many options that you can give them about potential future, right? There are some, but not many. That's one thing we're working on. The one thing is about what are your rights. If you're the father or the mother of a promising football player, you want him to succeed, absolutely. But you want to protect them. You need to understand how a transfer works. You need to understand how an agent works. What rights you have as an African family are the same as a kid from the US or a kid from Portugal or a kid from France. But that power imbalance is so wide that it's difficult to bridge. That's what we're trying to do. My Media is a sports and crime briefing. We're launching the free-to-play program, which is the first fact-checking platform in football. I invite your readers to check us out on Patreon or at sportsandcrime.com if they want to support us. We are going to be that backstop. Any coach, any academy, any family in Africa or in South America or anywhere uploads information to us about a transfer offer that they got, we're going to fact check it for free within 5 working days. We have the contacts to do it. We know the teams. We know how to get that checked. The second one is giving kids alternatives. Right? It should be on the wall of every academy in Africa, the steps to be taken to move to Europe or to move to the US legitimately. And it's a harsh reality check. Because if you're not playing 80% of national games for the national team, you're not going to look it. You're just not going to make it. It's just not possible. To say 18-year-old, under 18s are not allowed to be transferred internationally. Period. There are no exceptions unless you're literally within 50 miles of a border. Third is reduce the financial incentives, but that's very difficult. FIFA, to their credit, has created a new system of compensation in 2015. Where if a player was trained between the age of 10 and 16 by a club for 3 years, doesn't matter where that club was, that club is owed a portion of the transfer. So if that kid, is sold in Europe for €1 million, his original club in Africa that trained him from 10 to 13 gets a cut, a small cut. That's good because that's an honest way of doing business. But can you imagine the scams that generates?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how that creates a football mill mentality? We send everybody to Europe. We'll collaborate with any agent that gets them out of here. And if one of them hits, it's a windfall. So we'll send 20 kids, 30 kids, and if one of them hits, not even a Messi level contract, just like €1 million, €2 million Euro transfer, that's a big windfall for the owner of the academy. Unfortunately, that attitude is very difficult to shift.